firelight flickered across her face. For a moment her eyes softened, like she was seeing memories she wished she could forget. 3,400 meters, she whispered again. That was the test. Longest confirmed shot in training. Everyone else failed. I didn't. The group went silent again. No one knew what to say. Ghost Division was a legend, but now it had a face, and that face sat beside them, carrying scars they couldn't see. But what they didn't realize was that the true test of who she was, the truth behind why Ghost Division had chosen her, was still waiting for them. Because a storm was coming. A mission so dangerous that even the SEALs themselves doubted survival. And when it hit, when everything collapsed, they would finally see what Ghost Division had made her into. And it would change everything. The storm came 3 nights later. It began with whispers on the radio. Intel about a high-value target hiding deep in the mountains, surrounded by fighters who would rather die than surrender. The SEALs knew the mission was a long shot. It was the kind of operation where the odds weren't in your favor. The kind where men wrote letters to their families before stepping onto the bird. Still, orders were orders. They loaded up, checked their weapons, and prepared for the fight. But even before they lifted off, there was a feeling in the air, heavy and unshakable. The kind of silence before lightning cracks across the sky. And in the middle of that silence, the medic sat, her eyes fixed on nothing. Her mind somewhere else. She had seen storms like this before. She knew what was coming. The insertion went bad from the start. The helicopters barely cleared the ridge before enemy fire lit up the night sky. Tracers streaked like burning comets, striking the rotors. The pilots fought to steady the birds, but the landing zone was already compromised. They had no choice but to drop fast and move. Boots hit dirt, weapons up, hearts pounding. The mountains swallowed them whole. Within minutes, they were under fire again. The valley echoed with gunshots, the sharp cracks bouncing off the cliffs. The SEALs pushed forward, taking cover behind rocks, returning fire. But the enemy seemed endless, waves pouring out from caves and ridges. It was as if the mountain itself was spitting out fighters. One of the SEALs, Ramirez, shouted over the gunfire. "It's a kill zone. We've got to pull back." But the team leader shook his head. "Negative. The target's ahead. We move forward." Forward. Into the jaws of hell. They advanced, inch by bloody inch, but the price was heavy. 2 men went down in the first hour, one with shrapnel buried in his chest, another with a bullet tearing through his shoulder, and each time she was there. The medic, the ghost among them, working with hands that didn't shake, eyes that didn't falter. Under fire she stitched, she bandaged, she dragged, and when there was no one left to cover her, she raised her rifle and created her own cover. Still, the enemy pressed harder. The SEALs were surrounded, cut off from extraction. Ammunition ran low. The mountain turned into a trap, and the trap was closing. It was then that the medic made a decision. While the others fought to hold the line, she crawled up the ridge alone. The night was alive with bullets snapping past her ears, stone exploding under the impact of rounds. But she climbed higher, her movements deliberate, silent. She reached a narrow ledge, overlooking the valley, and that's when she saw it, the enemy stronghold. A cave system riddled with fighters, their heavy machine guns pinning the SEALs below. She knew what had to be done. Dropping her pack, she pulled out her rifle. It wasn't the weapon of a medic. It was a long-range tool of precision, the kind she wasn't supposed to have, but somehow always carried. She set it down, adjusted the scope, and her breathing slowed. The chaos of the battlefield faded. All she heard was her heartbeat. All she felt was the weight of the trigger beneath her finger. 3,400 meters. The record she had whispered about days before wasn't just a number, it was a promise. And now, in this valley of fire, that promise was about to be tested again. Her first shot cracked through the night, echoing like thunder. The round found its mark. An enemy gunner toppled backward, his weapon silenced. She adjusted, fired again, another target down. The SEALs below glanced upward, confusion mixing with awe. Someone was clearing the ridges, someone was turning the tide. But she wasn't done. Shot after shot, she dismantled the enemy's advantage. Her hands moved like clockwork, loading, adjusting, firing, at distances no sane person would attempt. She struck with perfection. Fighters scrambled, desperate to find the ghost on the ridge. But she was already gone, shifting position, vanishing into the rocks like smoke. Minutes felt like hours, but slowly the momentum shifted. The seals surged forward, seizing ground, pushing the enemy back. For the first time since the mission began, survival felt possible. And then disaster. The enemy, desperate and enraged, launched one final counterattack. Dozens of fighters poured from the caves, charging straight at the seals. Explosions lit the night. Gunfire roared. In the chaos, one of the seals was hit. Ramirez again, this time worse. He went down hard, blood spilling fast. Without hesitation, she broke cover, sprinting down the ridge. Bullets chased her steps, dust erupting all around. She slid beside Ramirez, her hands pressing into the wound. But as she worked, she realized something. The enemy was closing in too fast. They would be overrun in seconds. She looked up, her eyes locking with the team leaders. And in that instant, a silent understanding passed between them. She wasn't going to make it out. Not if she stayed. But Ghost Division hadn't trained her to survive. They had trained her to save. "Go," she shouted. "Get him out." The team hesitated, but her voice cut sharper than the gunfire. Now, the SEALs obeyed. They grabbed Ramirez, hauling him back toward cover, while she turned, rifle in hand, and faced the storm alone. What happened in the next minutes would never be fully written down, never fully told. The SEALs who survived would only say this: she became something unreal. She fought like the mountain itself had come alive, her rifle spitting fire, her body moving with a precision that belonged to no ordinary soldier. She held the line until the last possible second, until the helicopter finally roared overhead, until the SEALs were clear. And then, silence. When they returned for her hours later, after reinforcements secured the valley, they found her sitting against a rock, rifle across her lap, blood soaking her uniform. She was alive, barely, her breathing ragged, her eyes half closed. But when she saw her team, she managed a faint smile. "You made it," she whispered. They carried her out of that valley, not just as their medic, not just as a soldier, but as something more. A ghost who had walked with them through fire, who had shown them what courage looked like when death itself was knocking. Back at base, no one asked again about her training. No one needed to. They had seen it with their own eyes. Ghost Division wasn't a legend. It was real. And it lived inside her. She recovered slowly, scars etched into her body, but her spirit never wavered. She returned to her unit, quieter than before, yet somehow even stronger. And though she never spoke of the record again, the SEALs whispered it among themselves. A story passed down like sacred truth. 3,400 meters. Not just a number, not just a record, but the measure of a soul who refused to break, even when the world demanded it. And in that silence, in that memory, they carried her legacy forward, knowing they had fought beside someone who was more than just human, someone who had touched the edge of impossible and come back alive. Sometimes the bravest voices aren't the loudest. Sometimes they are the whispers that carry across the fire, quiet but unshakable. And sometimes, those whispers are enough to change everything.